So this project started life in 2015 with the idea from Ulinka Rybulak that there might be some way of making a musical adaptation of her book, The Astronomer and the Witch, which tells the story of the witchcraft trial of Katharina Kepler. And in 2016, we recreated 17th century Germany in the chapel of St. John's College, Cambridge, with the use of sackbuts and cornets, organ, harpsichord, and references to choral music of the time by Schein and by Lassus. And I wove references to the music of 17th century Germany into the score of the opera. A year later, we took the opera to the Victoria and Albert Museum, and on that occasion, we collaborated with the Gesualdo Six, who took on the role of the choir, singing the role of the villagers. And this year, we've taken some of the opera back home to Tubingen, to Kepler's university town, and we'll be performing extracts from the opera in a new arrangement here. And the university in Tubingen has also commissioned a new work for the Gesualdo Six, which has ended up being a set of 4 motets, Kepler Motetten. While Ulinka Rybulak and I were cooking up Kepler's trial, the opera, it just so happened that Renate Dur, professor from Tübingen University, was on a visiting fellowship to St. John's College, Cambridge. And she was very excited by the project. And in the end, some representatives of the university attended the performance of Kepler's trial at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And after that, we struck up correspondence about a way of bringing Kepler back home to Tübingen, and have worked with them over the last year or so to curate an event that presents both Ulinka's groundbreaking research, which focuses on Katharina's trial, and this reconstruction of a marginalized voice, a voice from the fringes of history, with this musical celebration of Kepler in the 400th anniversary of the publication of The Harmony of the World. I had a sense that there was unfinished business after writing the opera, in that I was really focused on telling the story in quite a concise way of Katharina Kepler and the witchcraft trial, and trying to create the sense of the collision of Kepler's scientific, rational world with the superstitious, fearful environment of early 17th century Germany on the cusp of the 30 Years' War. And in the course of the process that gave rise to the opera, Ulinka Rybulak organized meetings with scholars who engaged with Kepler's work from a variety of different perspectives, whether they were scientific, mathematical, or from the point of view of history or literature, philosophy. And so many of the ideas that grew out of Kepler's work, and in particular his magnum opus, The Harmony of the World, a book which he published in 1619, sparked my interest. The way in which he sees the organization of the cosmos as being fundamentally harmonious, but in order to accommodate the complexity of the data that he was working with, he had to stretch his conception of the harmonious to include dissonance. And he writes very powerfully about the way in which dissonance belongs to the harmonious whole in that work. And when the opportunity arose to write for Tubingen, one thing I wanted to do was to present Kepler in his own voice, talking about the musical organization of the cosmos. In The Harmony of the World, he talks about the planetary orbits as being like a six-part chorus. So that fused too obviously not to make use of with the idea of using the Gesualdo 6, a ready-made sextet, to represent this kind of planetary harmony. I also wanted to find a way to make the work have a kind of direct relevance and communicative power to the German audience here. And one way in which I've tried to do that is by using German texts. Kepler's texts themselves are in Latin, but I've also used fragments from poems by the German Romantic poets Novalis and Hölderlin, as well as the Lutheran hymn Wie schön leuchtet der Morgenstern. And those are juxtaposed and sometimes superimposed on Kepler's words to create a kind of German commentary. He's a kind of uniquely potent figure in German cultural consciousness, beyond being a figurehead for the sciences. He was a hero of sorts for Romantic poets like Novalis and Hölderlin. And as Hölderlin writes, they see him and kind of the moral force of his work, as well as the intellectual force of it, as being something that conjures light from the dark, which is also a beautifully astronomical image of understanding growing out of the night sky.